This is a PSA, or public sock announcement. Experts have declared Bombas socks as the best way to warm up chilly feet. These pairs are super cushy, soft, and designed for maximum coziness. Plus, for every pair purchased, another pair will be donated, so someone in need of essential clothing can stay warm this winter. Go to bombas.com/listen and use code LISTEN for 20% off your first purchase. That's BOMBAS.com/listen and use code LISTEN at checkout.
Whether you're making the same breakfast that you have every day or baking a cake for an extra special day, eggs are a staple in our diets. Eggland's best eggs are nutritionally superior to ordinary eggs, containing more vitamins and 25% less saturated fat. Not only are they better for you, but Eggland's best eggs taste better too. There's a reason that they're America's #1 eggs. Visit egglandsbest.com for additional information and delicious recipes.
Welcome to Heaving Bosoms, the podcast where two best friends recap romance novels while loving a Sebastian and contemplating frothy white drinks.
Gonna love what we love, do it out loud. Stack our shelves with the clinches out. Shout it from the rooftop, can you hear the sound? Yeah. Live your best life, love it out loud. Love it out loud.
Hey HBs, I hope your holiday season is wonderful so far. We're actually not bringing holiday cheer in this episode, but we are going to one of my favorite places. Before we get to that though, we gotta talk about what's happening on the bonus feed. This Friday on Patreon and our Apple Podcast subscription, we're recapping Demon from the Dark by Cressley Cole. This is the 10th book in the Immortals After Dark series, and we get to go to actual hell. Caro the Incarcerated, good time witch after my own heart, is tasked with luring a notoriously horrifying vampire demon back to the nefarious research facility experimenting on immortals in an otherwise tropical paradise. Wow, I'm really honed in on geography today, aren't I? Regardless, it's a big me Tarzan, you Jane, and we loved it. That's this Friday on Patreon or our Apple subscription feed. This week, we got to frolic around one of my favorite fictional places, Finley Fenn's Orc Mountain. This is part 1 of The Governess and the Orc by Finley Fenn. Oh, Sabrina.
Melody,
Y'all, it's time to take the people back to Splash Mountain.
We're going to Splash Mountain.
It's time.
Okay, so I put together the poll for our next reading list, and I was like, yeah, we'll throw Governess and the Orc on there. And I put it on there, and then obviously, unsurprisingly, we all love Splash Mountain, and it got picked.
We're back, baby.
It's back. Hi. I am so fucking deep back in this orc hole. It's not even funny. I have downloaded every book I haven't read yet. And Melody, I love an orc.
Well, because here's the thing, Sabrina. You have actually held out for a shocking amount of time. I've been teasing the rim of this orc hole for a long time now.
Well, like
ever since
the Widow.
Beauty and the Widow and the Orcs.
Yeah, you just did the Widow and the Orc on Patreon, and I was like, man, I'm not really in the mood for orcs right now, though.
Hey, listener, that was in August. I didn't just do it on Patreon. That was in August. But what is time?
The other day, Melody fucking Carlisle, I need you to understand that the other day can be any time from prior to my conception.
Okay, yep.
To things that may not have actually happened to the future.
No, I hear that and I honor it.
By the way, the reason that I say this is about to sound mentally unwell, which is accurate. Okay. But so I've never been a dreamer. I don't really remember my dreams, right?
Yeah.
But come to find out that that's likely because I had undiagnosed and unmedicated ADHD, which means I was never fully sleeping well at night. And now I sleep really well, which means I have dreams and I'm not used to remembering my dreams. And some of them are really vivid. And so sometimes I'll be talking to somebody and they'll say something and I'm like, well, that's not what you said the other day. And they're like, what are you talking about? Or I'll be like, oh yeah, when we did blah, blah, blah and blah. And they're like, we've never done that. And I'm like, oh, yeah. What do you mean? And then I realized, oh, no, you're right. We didn't do that. I dreamed it. And because I'm not used to remember, one, I'm not used to dreaming a whole lot, but also I'm not used to remembering my dreams unless they're completely unhinged. Like it's not, it's literally not physically possible for it to happen in this universe.
Right.
That's what I always remembered. But now I have like very vivid dreams that I remember that are like
normal stuff. Oh my God, Sabrina, in my like teens into my adulthood, I didn't really dream until I got on ADHD medication. But when I was a child, I did. And like, you know how when we had that conversation about how the dad told the kid that all the other dogs barked because their dog was the king of all dogs, you know? And like, and like the idea that, you know, kids will just accept stuff when it happens to them or you say it to them. I had a dream at one point that I took my parents' Isuzu pickup truck and drove it down to the gravel pit to do donuts with Muppets in the cab with me. And I believed that happened until I was like a teenager. And then I had to be like, wait, Muppets aren't real though. How would that, I couldn't be with Muppets.
That's the worst part is when it's like something that's completely normal, but there's one little thing that you just don't think about it. And then all of a sudden you like really, like they're like, that never happened. And then you think about that memory, quote unquote, a little closer and you're like,
Well, the issue is that it's like not I learned how to drive when I was 9 to make sure that I could get, you know, my brother or whoever needed to the hospital if I was at home alone. And so like, it's not out of the realm of possibility that I would take our truck and drive somewhere, generally not on the highway to the gravel pit, but like I was fully driving by then. So like the memory made sense in that regard. It was the Muppets really that fucked it.
That's very interesting, actually. Now that I think about it, I did remember. I can still remember some dreams that I had when I was a child, like when I was young. Anyway,
all right. So you're back in this orc hole, is what I've learned.
Boy, oh my God, Trigger and Eben are breaking my fucking heart.
I told you as soon as that came out. And then I told you that right after I read that, I had to go back and read Yuled by the Orc again. Because of that scene that they have with their dad, with Trigger's dad.
What?
How far are you? I thought you read it. Are you done with it?
Listener, what? You're witnessing Melody be a spoiler princess live on podcast. Let's count the spoilers real quick. 1, we meet Trigger's dad.
God.
2, Trigger's dad is one of the dudes in Yuled by the Orcs.
I already told you that happened way before when I told you that I went down an orc hole.
So
we've already had that conversation. Yeah, I know. It's like when I remembered that Colette Rhodes messaged us back.
Oh, yeah. yeah, exactly. But, like listener, let us count the ways. No, I am not far into it. I am only 36%. We just got to the scene where, get ready, listener, because this is a spoiler for Triggered by the Orcs. That's what a warning is, Mel. That's a heads up for a spoiler.
How dare you?
But I'm at the scene where Eben is so sad about Trigger, and he goes and gets the ever-loving shit railed out of him, and gets whipped and all of those things. And then when, what's his name? Gareth? Gareth is walking him out of the Deflissa.
Yeah, of the Kaesh sex dungeon.
God, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
They're walking out of it, and Gareth is like, you can come back and get railed and be a bleeding mess tomorrow, but, like, let's go lay down for a little bit. And they walk outside.
Yeah, sweetie.
And then Eben is, like, shirtless and bleeding and miserable and, like, half passed out, and Trigger's there. And Trigger's like, thank you for telling me about Alma. Are you okay? And that's literally where I'm stopped right now.
Oh my God, listener, the
you.
first time that Eben sees Trigger, and this is one of the things I love about Splash Mountain and Finley Fenn and all the business, he meets Trigger because he's going around a corner in the Sky Wing, which is notoriously dark, and he just sees Trigger going after it.
He's just
right in the hallway, even though there are express rules now.
Yeah, no,
in another
you're not
orc.
allowed to fuck in a hallway because there's kids.
There's kids here now. It's a safe space, everybody.
But also everybody...
But they got really good noses.
Yeah, nobody fucking listens because guess what? They can smell and probably hear the kids from a million miles away.
Allegedly.
Supposedly.
The smell thing goes here, there, and everywhere,
well,
even in Governess and the Orc.
If you're a little distracted, then you're not going to smell that somebody's coming. And sometimes you accidentally walk in on your brother with the world's biggest cock in the entire world down his throat, you know?
No, absolutely. That happens to all
your
of
brother
us.
who is actually more like a son, the son of your heart, you know?
Yeah.
I can't
and
wait
what is
to
more
read.
Distracting?
I cannot wait to read Kest's book now.
Sins of the Orc is so good. I told you. I've told you about that one too because it's all about like his healing.
Yeah,
from
know.
His horrible traumatic past.
Well, and it's one of those things where
there's some vengeance.
Oh man, I'm so excited because like it's been long enough since you've told me about all of these that I don't remember any. Like I remember like a couple little basic stuff, but like I don't remember that. And so I'm like, orc. I also have a new obsession.
Have you read Othar's book? You mentioned Othar when we were on the phone earlier today. Have you read his book?
He doesn't have a book yet.
I thought he did. Isn't he falling? Isn't he the first
I thought the same
novella?
I thought the same.
Is that Othen?
Thing. So
what is his name?
Othen is so Othen is a person. And here, hang on, let me go get my handy dandy search. So Othen doesn't have a book. And I'm desperate.
Huh.
So Othen shows up and Triggered by the Orc, an heiress of the Orc. Okay? Because Othen shows up when there's like some party times that Ella is hosting a party towards the end of the book.
Okay.
Othen's there, Bjor is there, all of these people. But Othen doesn't have a book because the one you're thinking of, because I thought the exact same thing. I was like, isn't it that other MM book? And it's not.
Yeah,
that's the general boy.
Gerard is the human man.
Yes.
But who is that orc?
Not Gerard. It is...
I could have sworn on my nipples that it was Othen.
I thought the same fucking thing.
Olar. Olarr. That's what it is. Okay, Olar is
because I thought the same thing when I saw Othen show up and Triggered by the Orc. I was like, I can't wait for his book. And then I was like, wait, what do you mean it's not Othen's book?
I think I has. Oh no.
Fuck.
Yeah.
I'm so sad.
Okay, we have to get to business because this is an 800-page book minimum that I know of.
It's 550 pages.
Okay, it's basically an 800-page book, especially when you add all of the emotional trauma.
It is also a 21-hour audiobook.
Yeah, it is. Oh my God. Okay, so I have read this both with my eyeballs and my earballs.
I have not listened with my earballs. Is it amazing? I haven't listened to any of the Orc books with my earballs. Is it amazing?
Shane East narrates all of them, ? I think maybe there are a couple newer ones that he didn't narrate, but yeah, Shane East narrates it. And one of the things that I got a little bit like messed up by, because I think this might be the first one that I've actually listened to, but I always hear the orcs as Scottish. with the ah.
Stop, Melody. I also hear them as Scottish in my ear parts and my brain parts. What are you about to fucking tell? Am I about to be broken?
I don't know. Let's just say that narrators are free to make artistic choices.
Okay, what do they sound like, though?
It almost sounds like a quasi-Spanish, like a Spaniard accent almost. So it's more like European instead of specific region. He sort of mashes some accents together. But the one I hear the most is like a Spanish from Spain accent.
I can see that, though.
Yeah.
Because I hear that, like the Ken. The Ken is what clicked me into Scottish.
Ken and ach. Yeah.
Yes. And it throws me off every time I restart one of these books that Ken can mean both no, but also think.
I know.
Fucks me up and same time with ach. Ach is like yes, but also oh, but also
and did you know? Do you agree?
It has like 800 meanings, and I forget every fucking time until I start the book, and then I'm like, I don't know what these mean. I don't understand what you're saying. Why are you asking if they think? Oh, you're asking if they know. Oh, but then later I promptly forget that, and then later I'm like, oh wait, what do you mean you know? Shouldn't it be you think? Oh, you do think. Fuck. All right, so let's jump into it. We have a couple of patrons.
Wait, no, we have patrons. Wow, look at both of us.
Hey, I had us on track for once in my ding-dong life.
No, and it's amazing. Yeah.
You jippy jumped to it, and
I know. Zippy Zach didn't even give me permission. I just jippy jumped in there, and that is really the biggest problem that we have at the moment. But here's the thing. When I say let's get into it, I'm the dumbass that means book. Yeah.
You're not a dumbass, Mel.
Okay. Hey, everybody, thank you so much for being part of the Patreon. It is December. The holidays are around us. They are coming at us down the barrel really hard. So if you've got a romance lover or an HB that you need a last minute gift for, you can actually get gift memberships on Patreon for any creator that you love to give to a friend. So think about that for this holiday season. All right, so hey, thank you and welcome, big giant warm HB welcome to Sonia S. and Lewis P.
To Katya and Betty M.
Alicia and Kenzie K.
Rebecca C. and Regan.
Karina B. and Jean Eileen.
Hedera and Melissa S. Thank you. We love you. We hope you enjoy our shenanigans.
Yeah.
Because there's lots of them.
Yeah.
Whether you're making the same breakfast that you have every day or baking a cake for an extra special day, eggs are a staple in our diets. Eggland's best eggs are nutritionally superior to ordinary eggs, containing more vitamins and 25% less saturated fat. Not only are they better for you, but Eggland's best eggs taste better too. There's a reason that they're America's #1 eggs. Visit egglandsbest.com for additional information and delicious recipes.
Parents, did you know that only 50% of U.S. adults are financially literate? Millions of people don't fully understand how to manage money, and it's up to you to not let your kids grow up into that statistic. With Greenlight's educational money app and parent-controlled debit card, you can teach them how to earn, save, and invest wisely. The earlier they learn, the better prepared they'll be to manage their money and build a financially secure life. Give your kids the financial edge they need. Sign up for Greenlight today at greenlight.com/podcast. That's greenlight.com/podcast.
Melody, is this the fluffiest orc book that we've read?
No.
This feels like the least dark orc book that I've read.
Okay. Fluffiest.
That's what I'm saying. This is not a fluffy book by any means.
Okay.
But of all of the orkiness that I have read, this is the fluffiest.
Yeah. I think it hit me in a few real serious woman lady places, And so we can chat about that on the way through. So this is Governess in the Orc. We've got Jiva Okoro. She has the worst governess position in the history of childcare or teaching positions. Mm-hmm. She's a human woman. She's a Black human woman. Mm-hmm. And in this universe, her parents were diplomats from a country called Azira, which is like across an ocean. So she's also a racial minority as a Black woman in this orc place, this orc adjacent place, I think is what I'm going to say, because the orcs are also an oppressed minority. Anyway, here we go. So she has this terrible boss, and they're taking all of the kids that she teaches on a quasi-holiday to, like, the city, you know? But they're going to London for the season or something.
That's exactly it, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And she really wants to keep one of the girls, the girl who is,
Cecily.
like, their ward, Cecily, who is in so many of the upcoming books, and she's just the best sweetie baby angel.
I cannot fucking
And I cannot wait for their trio. There better be a fucking trio.
Timo, Suni, and Cecily.
Yes. Finley Fenn, hello. We are respectfully approaching your altar, Finley Fenn.
I will have you know that in the Finley Fenn Discord, it is less polite and it's more of a, if you don't fucking make this book, the three of them in the next generation, we will fight.
Orc Sworn Next Gen. Like, I am humbly approaching you, Finley Fenn.
I just got fucking chills. Oh my God.
So here's the thing. She wants to keep the girl, and the employer's like, no, and you're shit on my shoe and never speak to me again in any way that suggests you're a person.
Also, she's like the Mrs. Fuckwald is an asshole, and she's basically like also like in front of Jiva is like, hey, maid, make sure you lock everything up so nobody gets any sticky fingers, and like looks Jiva straight in the eyeballs.
How dare you, ma'am?
What the fuck, ma'am? So it's this whole thing. They lock up all of the jewelry. So there's this weird thing, too, where Jiva is a part of the servant class. Like, she lives with the rest of the servants and the thing, but she's not a servant. Yeah, she's an employee. So, like, all of the servants hate her because she gets paid more, but she's still scum to everybody who's not a servant. She's in the world's most awful mid-ground as far as, like, this is concerned.
Yeah, and she has the audacity to be Black at the same time. You know?
My God, assholes. So they all leave. The family leaves for the trip, and she is looking, she's in the schoolroom, and she's crying. She starts tearing up because she's just so fucking frustrated, understandably. Yeah. And then from behind her, she hears... weeping already. And you've not even met me yet. And when she turns around, there is a freaking pirate orc.
There's a 7-foot-tall, fancy pirate orc. Okay?
Well, do you know how much fucking fan art I have looked at in the last 72 hours?
Probably a similar amount to the amount I have.
I am so horny for Rathgar. It's naughty. I love a pirate man. This is not a Seven Seas book, but this is a pirate. This man is a pirate man, and he is flamboyant,
start to finish,
and well dressed, and a little persnickety.
Never been in a boat in his life, but he is a pirate.
Rathgar.
Okay, so he's here to plunder the whole house, okay? And this is going in the face of the Orc Treaty that has been made several books ago by Grimmar, the captain of all 5 clans. And he's like, I didn't sign any treaty, so like, show me all your goods. And she decides that it's best if she just goes along with it because he has threatened her life with his giant sword.
Yeah, he straight up has his fucking sword to her throat at some point.
And it nicks her neck a tiny bit. Yeah. It's wild. So she like takes him around to all the rooms. She finds the key that bitch hid in front of her just to spite her. And then after that, she shows him a secret drawer in like the man of the house's room that has a dagger in it, a jewel encrusted dagger. And he says, where did your master get this? And she's like, I don't know. I just got here. Like, what do you want? And he's like, this is orc forged. And that's going to come back at the very end.
I did not see that coming at all.
Right? So anyway, he makes her take him to the kids' rooms, the servants' rooms.
And then
he almost takes her entire savings.
Whoa, hang on. This is fucking awful. He does take her savings. All of her money, he takes it. And then she's like upset, understandably. And she's like almost crying. And she's like, thanks to you, my career's finished. I'm fucked. I'm ruined. Like, they're gonna blame me. And I guess I'm gonna have to run away for my life and live in poverty for the rest of my days. And he's like, oh God, don't cry. Here, take it back.
And she's like, great, that'll get me through a week. Because they're like, all I'm saving is like the coppers left over in my measly salary. And it's even tougher for her because there aren't very many Black people in this region. And so she can't even blend in. She can't like go to the Capitol and disappear.
Well, and on top of that, her skill is governess. That's what she's trained for. And like, there's only so many governess positions.
Right.
Like, she literally cannot. The one thing that she can do in this world, and she can't do it anymore because you've put a fucking target on her back, Wrath.
Right. And so he eventually actually feels bad because at first he's like, what the fuck are you doing? And she's like, I'm packing. I have to disappear. They're going to think I took everything.
Oh, hang on, though. Before this is the wardrobe. He hasn't realized she's leaving yet. So they hear sounds outside. And this is a great example of, can orcs smell things or are they just idiots? Both.
Yeah.
And because all of a sudden, like right outside her door, some of the servants show up and they're like, Jiva, where are you? And she's like, fuck, you gotta hide. And then shoves him in the wardrobe and goes with him, and they're in this wardrobe and he's like snuffling on her,
and she's breathing really hard, and they're in the room now looking in her room. And so he's like touching her hair and face to be like, we're calm, we're all good here. And she likes it.
She does, and she scents all up in that wardrobe because he's an orc, so apparently he does have a sniffer. And then he sniffs on her some more, and then he licks her neck and where he cut her. Oh, because boy, orcs are into blood. They like a little blood.
Every once in a while, it really hits the spot.
And so then the servant people leave, and they both go stumbling out of there, and she's like flustered, understandably, and he's also a little flustered. And then that's when she's like, well, fuck, I guess I have to leave. And so she gets naked almost in front of him and starts putting as much clothing on her as she can wear so she doesn't have to carry all of it in a bag.
Yeah. And there is no shame on her whatsoever. It is wonderful. And she's just like, yeah, he can see my ass. I don't care. I've got bigger things to worry about.
Yeah.
And so after that, he's like, what are you doing? And she says, I have to run away. And he says, what are you talking about? Do you have a friend? Do you have family? Do you have somebody who owes you a debt? And she's like, no, it doesn't change the fact that I've got to run. And so finally, he's like, okay, I will hire you. And she's like, for what exactly? And he says, woman, I wouldn't mate you even if you were like the last lady on the planet.
I like meek, quiet, subservient women who are soft and just let me do whatever it is that I want.
Push-aroundable, I think is a good term for it.
Push-aroundable. Yeah. Word for word. Canon. Yeah. He says that word for word. Push-aroundable. I want a doormat of a woman.
Fenn is a poet. I don't know what you want from us or her or anybody. So anyway, she's like, okay, well, I wouldn't with you either, obviously, because he says like, you've really shown your mettle. God, I love it when orcs talk about ladies' mettle, you know? So you've really shown your mettle. You kept cool in that thing. You protected me when like you could have just screamed the house down and gotten me in trouble. You could have done all of these things, but you were a good teammate. And so I could use some help with a deception. He says he's on the way to Orc Mountain in order to like meet up with some long lost fam. And it would look really good if he looked like mated and settled and happy and rich.
And she says yes. And also, most importantly, he says it'll be best if you scent of me.
Look, and there are really important things that orcs can scent. And the
one
biggest
of those things
two things.
Is every single person you've ever had, every fucking person who's ever seated you.
Okay, and the specific orifices in which you have been seated.
Yep. Of all time.
All time forever.
They can't smell that the cook has come up the stairs.
No.
But boy, they can tell that you fucked that one dude when you were drunk at 21.
That's right. That's right. And so he's like, listen, I don't want any sons. Like I'd never want a son ever in my life. And so because of that,
we can't do P and B.
Right, but we can do things in other places.
We can do
like,
P
I'm
and
sorry.
M.
Right.
Hey.
And P and R, because every time he talked about her plump rump, her pretty plump rump,
I forgot.
Did
the
I
word
lose my
rump,
mind?
And my brain was like, "Why are we using the word rectum? I don't like that at all."
Never would I ever.
I forgot. Wait, you don't like the thought of rectal sex?
Anyway, so she's like, what are you talking about? And he's like, I'll have you know that ladies have fallen to their knees begging for my good seed, he says verbatim. So then he's like, mayhap we'll just try it out, see if you like it or not.
He does. He sticks that penis
He
in
whips
her
it out.
mouth, and she licks on it, and boy, it tastes good because orc seed
Orc is the best
tastes
seed ever.
delicious.
I'm on the record saying that human men could take some pointers.
Could taste
from
better.
Orcs.
Mm-hmm.
Let's review. One of my kinks is honeycomb because of this series.
That's very true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would drink the shit out of this. Mm-hmm.
So, well, and this is the book when it goes way further than it has in any other book up until this point. Because it's one thing to like get it straight from the tap.
Yeah, don't talk about it yet. Don't talk about it yet. Let's wait until we get there.
I won't.
Well, but yeah, so she's going down on him and he says to her,
No, she's not. No. She is, but she's not, okay? And because this is a progression that they get to between now and the 5-day road trip we go on walking to Orc Mountain. So right now, he like gets himself hard and then puts his tip like up to her face, and then she leans forward to like lick his slit and see what it's all about. And then afterwards, she only has her mouth like kind of around the tip of his cock.
okay,
and then
you're right. This is very
moving his
important
hand
information.
up and down the rest of his shaft, okay,
Well, and
to make this
tells-
happen.
He says to her, I should have known you would welcome this, my prickly pet. The sharpest mouths are always the sweetest.
Okay.
Sir.
Come on. So anyway, he's like, this is a really good start. What an interview you just gave while I was stealing from you at knife point. And then the beach was great. And so he's like, let's go. It's time for our 5-day road trip. And we have to whimsy this a bit.
Yeah.
Because it's wonderful. Every single part of it is wonderful. And like reading the progression, the way that Finley Fenn writes it is amazing. But we can't do
the
it all
important stuff
here.
is that she's doing a great job of being his hired helpmate. Like she is making the humans along the road can see that she's happy with him. She's being a little sunshine angel. They stop at a couple of inns, and most importantly, the first night, she's standing in the bath.
Wait, before that, he says, we're going to stay in the inn. And she says, well, where are you going to stay? And he says, in the room I paid for. And so what she thinks is like, are we going to get separate rooms? Like, is there going to be like a double bed situation? But he takes it as, I'm too good to stay in the same domicile as an orc because orcs are gross.
Listener, this is the most stereotypical HBTM Sebastian in like any of these books.
Like maybe only Kest is more, you know?
Yeah, like, and that's the reason we say that is like all of the other orcs, they also have their own shit, right? Like they have their own problems and challenges and histories and issues.
Like John from Librarian can't retract his claws because he kept them out so much because he had to defend all of his peers.
Yes.
To the point where they don't retract anymore. They're stuck like that.
But he is the epitome of what Mel and I are talking about when we say we love a Sebastian.
That's right.
Because he's the most broken, sad boy. It's specifically like women, human women that he just doesn't trust them. But my God, they have the sweetest mouths, but they always leave me.
They always leave you, or they're always going after your wealth. And I'm going to hide all of my sadness under sarcasm and verbal attacks.
And just being a suave, debonair sasshole.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Wrath, you are catnip to me. It's a problem. It's unhealthy. I'm aware.
Yes. And the other important thing about this, like a road trip on the whole, is that Jiva's perspective on orcs is changing. Up until this point, she's just been fed the propaganda. And so on this trip, she starts identifying a lot more with orcs because she recognizes the hate that they get on the road and like you don't
and the
belong
prejudice
here.
and everything.
Yeah. So it's really interesting. But the first night, you're correct. I'm sorry. She does get in that bath.
So she is standing in that bath after she almost fell into it because she's very clumsy. He calls her his, what does he call her? Like his it
Poppet?
starts with an S. His snarfle, his clumsy, his
school marm?
No, it's an adjective. Like his skittish.
Oh yeah, he calls her skittish.
And she like clumsy and she like falls all over herself all the time and she's like, I'm not, and then promptly does. Always.
Only kinda. God.
Melody, don't get offended because you are this person. Okay?
Just shut up.
Don't project. Okay, Melody.
Whether you're making the same breakfast that you have every day or baking a cake for an extra special day, eggs are a staple in our diets. Eggland's best eggs are nutritionally superior to ordinary eggs, containing more vitamins and 25% less saturated fat. Not only are they better for you, but Eggland's best eggs taste better too. There's a reason that they're America's #1 eggs. Visit egglandsbest.com for additional information and delicious recipes.
Did you know that parents rank financial literacy as the #1 most difficult life skill to teach? Meet Greenlight, the debit card and money app for families. With Greenlight, you can set up chores, automate allowance, and keep an eye on your kids' spending with real-time notifications. Kids learn to earn, save, and spend wisely, and parents can rest easy knowing their kids are learning about money with guardrails in place. Sign up for Greenlight today at greenlight.com/podcast.
So he's like, hey, I will jerk off in this pail over here, and then you can take the seed and put it on yourself and then bathe in the bath and then be done. And she's like, there's got to be an easier way. And he's like, oh, are you thinking that I should just jack off right on you? And she's like, I am actually thinking that. So as this happens, he's like, touch yourself. Tell me how you feel.
He's like, if you wish it done faster, mayhap you shall show off those plump teats for me. Ach, Poppet. He calls her Poppet all the time. So
yeah, pet and Poppet.
By the way, every single time they have an interaction, he like ends up really aloof and closed off, like right the minute it's over. However he's been acting during the experience, the minute it's done, he's like, gotta go.
Yeah. His emotional availability turns off like a spigot.
The Ashkai. So he's a Clan Ashkai listener. If you're not deep in an orc hole like Melody and I, I'll just give you a little bit of background. Ashkai are emotionally stunted. All of them. All of them need therapy.
And they're schemers.
Yes.
And they love a jewel almost as much as a grisk.
Oh my God. They are a Valkyrie.
Yes.
Love a fancy shiny thing.
Yeah, and they love dressing their mates. Also, Sabrina, what clan are you?
If you think I'm not the book nerds, you're insane.
Oh, the Kaesh?
Yes,
okay,
that's it. Yeah,
I'm with you on that one.
If you think I'm not Kaesh, like you are unhinged. If you think I would not be fucking balls deep in the library with Rosa, you are insane. If you think that I would not have created some sort of orcish Dewey Decimal System, You're insane. If you think that I was not fucking all of those orcs in the
Defisla
public. Isn't the Ka-Esh the ones who are like, everybody is gonna fuck my woman while I stand there and watch? Or is that somebody else? I don't remember which book that was.
That's sort of an orc-wide thing, depending on
but some of the
situation.
clans.
But it's also Sky. It's a Sky thing.
Oh,
I'm pretty sure.
You're right. It is a Sky. Oh.
I'm almost positive it's a Sky thing.
Yeah. Well, but yeah, if you think I'm not a part of the awkward in the streets, kinky freak in the sheets clan, then you're insane.
You're distributing pamphlets with Rosa. I get it.
Yeah. What are you?
I'm almost positive that I'm going in between two, okay? I have a hard time. I think I'm a Grisk overall. I'm pretty sure I'm a Grisk.
Yeah, you are. I can absolutely see that you are. Yeah. You're taking care of that trading post. You're organizing all the stuff. You're taking care of everybody. You're feeding them. You're just like, we're just going to keep up with this mountain and make sure it's beautiful and wonderful.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I don't care. I'm in a corner with my nose so stuffed in a pamphlet I can't breathe.
Yeah. Or I'm a Bautul, but the only reason is for that garden. So I'm pretty sure I'm just a Grisk who works in the garden.
Yeah, you're right.
That's what I do.
I like how neither of us, it never even crossed either of our minds that we're Ashkai or
Sky. Absolutely not. I mean, listen, I love a hike, okay? But the Sky are too scheming. The Ashkai are too scheming. I can't.
So I was thinking about this because I was thinking about it while I was reading them, right? And I was like, I would never, ever be able to trust a single thing that left any of those people's mouths. And so, because like I would take them at face value and then I would get shit on for it.
Here's the thing, Sabrina. Both of those clans, their like number one thing is they have more conversations via subtext than actual words.
That's exactly.
And I can't.
They don't actually talk.
I can't do it.
This is a whole language happening on a frequency that I don't. It's a whole existence. It's an entire life happening on a frequency in a color scheme that I cannot see with my eyeballs.
Yes, absolutely. I would be so lost.
I can't hear it with my earballs. I can't see it with my eyeballs. I would just be living in a darkness and where occasionally somebody shoves something in a hole. Okay?
Yes.
Like, that's it.
Exactly.
That's all I know. All I know is that sometimes I have sex and most of the time I don't know why or who or how, right? Not in a bad
don't
way.
get me wrong. I am definitely BFFs or mated to a Sky and or an Ashkai. All right?
Okay, yeah.
For sure.
So that is the thing. Is unfortunately,
but that's because opposites attract.
If I was an orc, I would be Ka-Esh. If I was mated to an orc, because the universe works the way that it does, I would be mated to a Sky.
Yes.
Or an Ashkai, and probably a Sky because I would need them to constantly reassure me.
Why are Sky good at that?
Because
I mean, Sky are good at that sexually.
That's what I'm
but
saying.
Only
though,
if like you're really.
I guess it wouldn't be Sky.
It.
I guess like Ashkai maybe. I would end up with one. I would end up with one. You know what? In a perfect world, I mated to multiples in like a Draftly Balder situation.
Yes.
That's what it is. I need a Draftly Balder situation.
Yeah. Yes. An Alma situation.
I would really
but that's Sky and Grisk.
I just want one of everything, right? I feel like that's not too greedy. I would actually really I would like just one of all of them actually if I'm going to be mated.
I like that. I like that a lot. A super poly situation. Poly plus on Splash Mountain.
On Splash Mountain. Poly plus on Splash Mountain. Fully satisfied on Splash Mountain. Mentally, emotionally, physically, sexually. I would also just, even if I don't get all 5 of them, I need at least one mate that tells me what's happening.
You need a Sky or an Ashkai.
Even if I was there to witness whatever happens in life, I need one of my mates to like tuck my head to them and be like, So what just happened is blah, blah, blah,
Yeah, our
blah,
nightly
blah, blah, blah. And I just
debrief would be like... I mean, listen.
One of them is plowing me from behind while this mate is looking me in my beautiful eyes like, so here's just a debrief of what happened today so that you understand. Don't worry. I wrote it down so you can read it later. But, no, you don't need to talk. Somebody put a penis in that. You don't need to speak. Just listen.
Yeah. In fact, I'll fill your mouth while I tell you stuff.
I love this. You realize we'd be like besties too with our little harems, right?
Obviously.
Like we would be like meandering the mountain and like you literally could not go a corner without running into one of our mates.
I'm not greedy. I only need 2. All right. Like, listen.
I want one of each.
I hear you and I support you.
In reality, I know that that's not realistic. There's no fucking way you'd get one of everybody, right? They would not agree.
Well, I'm just thinking about the sheer amount of loads per day that would have to happen.
Hey, all of these boys would need to be willing to touch each other too, okay? There are only so many holes. 2,
all of the
there's
orcs
only
touch
so
each
many
other.
stamina. Actually, I don't want to be I don't want to be a mate. I don't want to be a mate. Yo, after R, take care of this baby situation.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
1000%.
FR can absolutely do that. Okay, we have gone on a journey here, and I regret asking, even though I don't regret it at all.
I don't regret it at all.
Okay. So, all right. So as they're on this road trip, the other thing that it's really important that they flesh out is that the power dynamic is fucked, because the agreement that they've made is that she will work for him for a month at Orc Mountain, and then after that, he will pay her in a lump sum and send her on a boat to Azira so that she can like find lost family or start over or whatever.
While they're doing this, they come to the agreement that she gets paid certain amounts for certain things. Gold.
Well, but the reason that is because the power dynamic is so fucked.
Yes.
And so she keeps on being like, I'm walking on eggshells here because you could let me go at any time and I get nothing, even though you promised to house me and feed me and protect me and do all the things that like a quote unquote mate would. And so finally it gets to the point where like she's like, I mean, they call each other names. They're fighting left and right.
God,
but
she's
then
so fiery. He loves it, but he won't
she's
admit
fiery.
it.
She's fiery until he says that like a good mate and like a good employee basically would be silent and biddable.
He says, "You are here at my whim.
Yes.
Woman, for my gold. This is all. I shall not treat you as some fine, frail goddess just because you have deigned to touch me and bear my scent. And if you do not wish to be truly left behind all alone with none of my food or gold or guarding, you shall henceforth be meek and yielding and quiet. You shall be the hireling you are and obey me." And she's horrified, frankly. Like, she's terrified.
She takes him at his word. And so she starts acting that way. And he hates it. He hates it
so much. Good.
Turns out he thinks she's way more charming when she is herself. And so she's really walking on eggshells at that point.
Would you like to know how he apologizes?
Yes, please. Yeah, because he tells her his interpretation of things that she said, that she didn't mean it that way. Like the first night, he's like, you told me that I wasn't good enough to sleep in the same room as you. And, that's not what she meant. Sorry, go ahead.
You're fine. So it's the second night. They're at the inn, right? Or like, I don't know, at some point on this road trip situation. And she's bathing and he's going to be staying in the room and he's like, I'll sleep on the floor. Like, he can tell that something's wrong. He doesn't like the way she's acting. All day she's been quiet and she hasn't said anything, and she hasn't been touching on him on the road, and she's very clearly closed off. And he is trying to tokens of apology kind of thing, but in like subtle ways because he's Ashkai, and so he is incapable of
He
just coming
cannot
straight
say
out
it
and
out
saying
loud.
it. And so he's like, I can sleep on the floor to spare you the shame of sharing a bed with an orc. And she's like,
Ugh, you're
no,
so passive
dude,
aggressive.
that
You
is
fuck.
not what's happening here. I have an issue. Like, I resent the fact that you treat me like I'm shit. And the fact that, like, I'm not allowed to have an opinion. I'm not allowed to speak. Like, I'm here to help you. And you hired me. I was just going to fuck off into the wilderness. And you are the one who suggested this.
Yeah. And you suggested it because I am me and because of the way that I was acting when you were ransacking that house. So finally, the next day, he decides that a better way to go about this.
Well, but his
his
final apology that night is so when they were leaving, when she was getting ready to leave the Fitzwalds, she wanted to take her family's book of tales, like folk tales, and she couldn't carry carry it because it's heavy. She had other things that she needed to be worried about. And so that night he pulls out the book. He had picked up the book. He pulled a Win and Danny for toothpaste and deodorant, and he's just been carrying it for a couple of days.
Yeah, it's really sweet. Yeah. And then after that, he's like, hey, I think it'll be more equal if we dole out the gold on a favor basis kind of situation, because he wants her smelling as much of him as possible to try and sell this ruse. So he's like, I'll give you a gold for drinking my cum. I will give you 2 golds for a beej. Yeah.
And you
2
get
golds,
5 gold for rectal.
Yeah. No. If I can wreck your rectum. No. Yeah, 5 for rump penetration.
And then she agrees, and at breakfast the next day, he brings her breakfast, and he hands her a goblet of something frothy and white. And she's like, is that? And he's like, yes. A gold for every load, ma'am. And she sips on that shit like a milkshake.
What a delicious hot drink.
Listener, for the rest of this book, if she is drinking something out of a cup, it is either water or cum. And it is probably cum.
Yo, at one point in this thing, they go into an orc-friendly inn, and they both get a pint of ale. And so he drinks down his ale as fast as he can, and then he takes the empty glass, starts jerking it under the table, and like comes into the cup in a public space and then hands it to her for her to drink all the way down. Now, here's the thing. She's looking around, and like not 2 tables over are more orcs. And she's like, oh my God. And he's like, oh no, they have no idea. They're not paying attention. What are their noses doing then?
What that nose do? Okay.
If you can smell historical cum inside my orifices, you should be able to identify someone jacking off 5 feet away from you.
That's the thing, is their noses just really decide when they do and don't want. And the reason this is coming up is I'm having this question right now and triggered by the orc. Okay. Because at one point, Dude Bro is getting a boner. Everyone can smell that you're horny, okay? It's just a thing. Yeah. He's getting a boner. And then Trigger's like it's very clear on Trigger's face that Trigger has no idea. No idea. He is so shocked that Eben is a horny little bastard toad. And it's like, Trigger, come on, bud. Not only that, you're a sky. What is that nose doing? What are your nostrils focused on, bro?
Yeah.
Same
Skies
thing here.
And Grisks have notoriously good noses. But I will say that Finley Fenn makes it very clear that just like other abilities or traits in an overall, set of folks, some are better than others, some like value it more than others. Like it's not like an equal thing all the way across, but come on.
Come on, bro. Like this is all. So anyway.
He does say that if they do notice, they won't care. Because it's an orc thing, ?
Well, and this is already after. So like when he comes publicly under the table into his glass to give to her, by the way, she loves it. She doesn't want to admit it, but she loves sipping on that orc shake.
It's honeycomb.
Yeah, it's delicious. So before that, went down on him in a clearing. And Killick and Ulfar, which if you're interested in thoughts, Melody did talk about them at length. It was supposed to be a
on
quickie,
Patreon.
and it turned into like an hour and
Not
a
a
half
quickie.
long quickie plus.
Yeah.
So she is now a little bit at least aware of orc dynamics, where this is just a thing. Nobody is going to think twice if your dick's out.
Yeah, no, not at all. And so Killick and Ulfar are both Sky, and they are scouts for Orc Mountain. And so, like, their whole deal is intelligence gathering, which when we find out things at the end, I'm like, Rathgar, what are you doing? Anyway, so they end up chatting. It's her first time showing herself as his mate to other orcs. He notices that, like, she does really thoughtful things, like she feeds them. She watches he and Killick spar. Oh, because the first night when he didn't sleep there, he came back with scratches on his back. And she's like, how fucking dare
She thinks
he
that
go
he went
and
off and
cheat
fucked
on
another
me.
lady.
Yeah, but he didn't. He was just sparring with Killick, which could be
Killick.
just as sexual. You know, you never know with these orcs.
This is the thing, though, is like, she's like, I can't believe that you cheated on me with another woman. And it's like, if he did fuck somebody, it was definitely not another woman. It was definitely another orc. Like,
Yeah.
let's be a little
Yeah.
clear here. So,
Incredible
also,
stuff.
we've had a couple of scenes where, like, she takes care of his hair. She's like, when's the last time you got your hair cut? Because it's, like, a little messy, like the edges. And he's like, oh, just, you know, usually after I fuck a lady, I'm like, hey, will you give me a chop? And she's, like, not happy about that. She's like,
oh, great.
You let other women touch your hair. Like, they're both a little possessive of each other from get-go, and it's wonderful. So we're going to zippy zap. They're walking up to the mountain, and he is explaining a little bit about his history. She has put together that he was essentially forced out of the mountain. Like, when he left 16 years ago, it wasn't a choice.
Right.
And she doesn't know why, though. And then he starts to tell her something. He's like, Jiva, I have to. And then all of a sudden we hear, oh, Rathgar. And like everyone's super excited. And there's two orcs just barreling down the road at them. And she's like, oh my God, what is happening? And it's Sigurd
and Abjorn.
And
They are okay. So Abjorn is one of my favorite characters, like side characters, because he is a Ka-Esh who always wanted to be a warrior Ashkai. And so he sort of like made himself into an Ashkai by hanging out with them and like training with them and doing all the business. And Rathgar, we learned like throughout the book that Rathgar was a caretaker from day one. And so not only did he take care of his little brother Kest, but he sort of had this like group of just a little bit younger orclings that he would sort of mentor and take care of as well. And so Sigurd and Abjorn were two of those folks, and they're so excited to see him. But one of the things that
it felt like Sigurd was like a co-caretaker. I felt like they were on the same
I would agree
level.
with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah. But one of the things that they tell him is that his brother Kest is mated. And Jiva thinks that it's really, really weird that Rathgar didn't know that Kest was mated. He knows weird political stuff. He knows a ton of things about Orc Mountain, but he doesn't know about his little brother's mating.
Mm-hmm. Oh, one thing. Before they get to the mountain, he gives her a wedding ring. By the way, this is important for later.
Yeah.
She has a gold and
it
ruby wedding ring because it's expected that orcs give their human women wedding rings because that's a human custom.
And one of the biggest things he says that his mother never forgave his father for not giving her a wedding ring.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you're making the same breakfast that you have every day or baking a cake for an extra special day, eggs are a staple in our diets. Eggland's best eggs are nutritionally superior to ordinary eggs, containing more vitamins and 25% less saturated fat. Not only are they better for you, but Eggland's best eggs taste better too. There's a reason that they're America's #1 eggs. Visit egglandsbest.com for additional information and delicious recipes.
Parents, did you know that only 50% of U.S. adults are financially literate? Millions of people don't fully understand how to manage money, and it's up to you to not let your kids grow up into that statistic. With Greenlight's educational money app and parent-controlled debit card, you can teach them how to earn, save, and invest wisely. The earlier they learn, the better prepared they'll be to manage their money and build a financially secure life. Give your kids the financial edge they need. Sign up for Greenlight today at greenlight.com/podcast. That's greenlight.com/podcast.
So when they show up, Kest and Efterar are outside. That is his little brother and the healer, like the best, hottest, most magicalist healer on Orc Mountain and probably this hemisphere.
A mountain? He's a mountain of himself.
Oh, and he's a craggy face.
And boy, scars. Apparently does he have the cock to end all cocks.
Yeah, it's really long. It's not super girthy, but it's like incredibly long.
Okay,
and that's
you have
what
more
I
information
know
than I do
about
because I haven't read that book yet. All I know is he wields it like a weapon.
Great stuff. Great stuff. So anyway, Hrothgar freezes in front of Kest, and Kest is really sarcastic and like, I want to say passive aggressive, but he's not. He's just politely aggressive.
Yeah, it's not passive. There's nothing hidden
but it's polite
about Kest's feelings and opinions.
Basically, he's like, where have you been for the past 16 years? And we find out that like he smells Hrothgar and he's like, I can scent over 100 women on you, but I've got you beat because of the sexual abuse that I experienced on Orc Mountain.
In your absence.
Yeah, and like, where were you to protect me when they were beating me and threatening to kill me? And what were you doing
me constantly, like
during that whole time?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and Hrothgar is visibly shaken and horrified by it.
Yes, absolutely.
And now Jiva's even more confused because she's like, "How did he not know the last 16 years that his brother was basically a abused fuck toy? Like, how did he? Yeah. How is he not aware of this?
Yeah, and so." One of the things he tries to do is present Kest with the dagger that Jiva found for him in that house. And Kest refuses to take it. And he says, I want nothing from our, lug? Like our useless, idiotic father.
Yeah, our shitty father is basically what it is. I know this is a reread for you. The first time you read this, actually, better question. Have you... ever Sherlock Holmes a single thing in a fucking Finley Fenn book?
I don't know.
I haven't.
Maybe not.
I had no idea. This didn't even, I was like, oh, weird, interesting. But then I like just wiped it from my memory. I had no memory of it. Like every single time we get to the end and these orcs share all of their secrets and what's been going on the rest of the fucking book, I'm like, did I witness
Interesting.
any of this?
Wow, this is coming out of nowhere.
Fascinating.
I mean, yeah, we find out like they're dropping hints that it's orc forged, and then Kest recognizes it as his dad's dagger.
Well, and the craziest things is it's not even like Finley Fenn's just whipping it out of nowhere. If you go back and look at the fucking book, the hints are everywhere. It's all right there.
Yep.
Anyway, so Kest is not interested. He's also like, why would you give me a dagger? You knew me for 15 years because you left when I was 15 and you know me. I have no interest in fighting. So what makes you think that this is a good fucking present? Yeah. Fuck you, dude. And then he says leaves.
And he says like, you haven't even apologized. We've been standing here. And finally, Hrothgar manages to say like, I'm sorry. And he's like, it's too late. I want nothing to do with you. I'm done with you. And he flips his hair and goes inside. Yeah. And so Jiva, meanwhile, had been trying to help. Like Hrothgar really, honestly froze. And so she was saying like, he didn't know. He always talks about you so well and all the business. But now they get shown to their room. And this is the first time that Jiva sort of figures out that the only way to get Hrothgar out of these like sort of almost catatonic states is with touch. And so they end up doing more rump stuff.
Well, yeah, because he tells her, in a most fucked up way, he whips out, they're in the middle of a fight, and he whips out a 10-piece gold coin and says, get naked, I'm gonna fuck your ass again. Yeah. And she's like, fuck you, fine.
Yeah. Well, okay. One of the other things that has happened on like the road trip here and continues to be an issue for Jiva specifically is that she has no problem with sex work, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And she has agreed to like this form of sex work. But after their encounters, the way that he immediately shuts off emotionally and then like pays her creates a lot of friction for her. And she ends up feeling really demeaned.
Yeah, that's exactly it. She's like, he doesn't respect me at all. Like this, I'm literally just flesh to him.
Yeah.
Like, and the worst part of it is that while they're being intimate, he's not like that. That's part of what's
he's saying
fucking
all the
her
nice
up.
things.
Mm-hmm. And he talks a lot about like you're amazing and like purrs for her and strokes her and tells her what a prim proper school marm is and how much he likes it and all of these things. And then the minute it ends, he's like
cold.
Stonewall. He stonewalls her.
Yeah. And then the other thing that they talk through, especially in that like power dynamics talk or like one of the power dynamics talks, is that she says like, you have all the power here. And then he says back to her, yeah, until we get to Orc Mountain, maybe. And then once we're at Orc Mountain, you know all of my secrets and you can out me at any moment. And so I want to set up more of like a helper relationship. What does he call it?
Isn't it
a helpmate? Yeah. And so they start talking about their relationship. It's still spoken about as transactional, but is much more goal focused than gold focused, even though the gold is still part of it.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, yeah, he's like, is it your mouth or your rump? And he's like, I really think you enjoyed it when I fucked you in the ass.
And she did.
And she's like, golly, I can't deny it. So let's go.
So the next morning when they wake up, he's gone. And then he shows back up while she's up and meandering. And he's looking for a different present for Kest. And he's just kind of like working through this. And this is when she sees his treasure trove, his hoard, which is in a separate room behind his thing. And the only reason it's important is that hoards are important to an Ashkai.
Yeah.
Specifically Wrath.
When Wrath was there and when Wrath was growing up, it was extra important because under Grimmar's father's leadership, it really represented your status in the mountain, and status equaled safety. Yeah.
Oh,
so anyway.
But then she's trying to like, she's like, you really need to like talk to him and apologize. And I just need to read because he says, but he called me a useless arsehole and a great greedy prick. You cannot ken he did not mean this, not when you have oft called me much the same, poppet. And she's like, well, I don't mean that though. Like that's just me talking. That's us interacting. And then he looks at her like, and she reads in his face, she's like, maybe he wants me to like him? Is that why he's upset by this? But then immediately he shuts down again. And she's like, well, obviously he does a fucking what? She's getting such mixed signals from this Ashkai asshole.
Yeah. And I mean, and that is a good 2/3 of the book, poor thing.
Yes.
And it's just going to escalate. There was a moment, you remember in Chloe Brown when like she was denying that he was a person that exists in her world to her aunt. And I got that terrible feeling. I got one of those in here, but like way worse.
Worse. Yeah. So they end up getting invited to a big fancy dinner with all the big names in Orc Mountain, right? Like there are people that we already know, like Grimmar and Jewel and Draftley and Balder are there.
Yeah, they're summoned to like the leadership to like break bread and figure out where everybody's at.
Yes.
Are you here as friend or foe?
Yes. And so while they're there, it ends up escalating. And Wrath is basically like, fuck you, Grimmar. You did a shit job of taking care of my brother in my absence. Like, now that I know what has happened. And you suck. And if we find my father's hoard, ever, the money that your father supposedly stole from us and like blah blah blah, if it is ever found, we deserve it back for me and Kest and our sons. And so he ends up getting a public, or is that later, where he gets like a public agreeance, basically.
It's later, but it's fine.
Yeah.
Like, this sets the stage because one of the things that Hrothgar asks him is like, where's your horde, Grimmar? Because his dad, as like the chief of everything, had a giant horde and would often steal from other orcs or kill orcs and then take their hordes, etc. And so this is when Hrothgar learns that Grimmar has spent his entire horde
for Orc Mountain.
Right. To like not only do defensive stuff for when the war was active, but also like bettering the mountain, adding infrastructure, adding a bunch of stuff so that it's better not only for orcs, but for the women and children that they want to bring or have in Orc Mountain.
Yeah. So he ends up stomping off. Wrath is pissed and he leaves. And so she is staying and she's trying to like smooth everything over because one of the confusions is that all she knows, literally all she knows, is that she is here to help make him look better.
Right.
To these orcs. Like look like he's settled and also like he's not a threat to Grimmar and his leadership and all of this. And so she is like, I don't know. He never said how he wants me to do that, though. What am I supposed to do? And so she ends up going on a tour of the mountain with Jewel. And Jewel is basically like, hey, so we've been talking about wanting to start an orc school.
Yeah.
Would you be interested? And she's like, yeah, that sounds great. Like, we got to make sure that when it gets set up, though, it's set up to where even if I'm not here, it still works just fine.
Yeah.
And
she says, at the very least, I'm interested in consulting on setting the school up. But a school needs like a ton of support. And so Jewel is like, oh, I will get a committee. Like, don't worry.
Yeah.
Splash Mountain knows how to set up a committee.
Boy, do they.
Yeah.
So, and she ends up also saying Kest, and she tells Kest, like, I really think you should give Wrath a chance. And Kest is like, fine. I'll see him tomorrow in the Ashkai Common Room, and he is going to tell me everything. He has to be honest about it, too. And she's like, okay. Because Kest won't accept anything else. He's like, it's this or nothing.
It's this or he fucks off forever.
Yes.
And so she went in trying to help him and she walks away with an ultimatum. So she's like trying to figure out how to tell Hrothgar all of this. And finally, like when they do meet up back in their room, because again, he has abandoned her. Yeah.
He's so mad. He gets back to the room and he walks in and he's like, I can't believe you spent all day cavorting with the enemy. And she's like, what the fuck else was I supposed to do, Wrath? You up and fucked off and said that you would come back for me at some point and you never did. And he's like, I'm here now. And she's like,
nope.
No. And he starts going,
you either need to like give me explicit instructions or don't leave me. Because what you asked for was a helpmate. You asked me to make you look better. I did that by trying to mend fences as much as I could. Also, I got you a date with Kest. It is a public storytelling session tomorrow.
Yeah, you have to tell him
in front of the entire clan.
But it worked.
But steps forward, you know.
But then he says some really shitty stuff to her about like
as usual.
You would do anything for coin, because he has a temper, this one, and he does not have a filter, and so he spends a lot of time apologizing for things that he never should have said in the first place. And at one point she's fucking done with it. She's like, you know what? Get fucked. I'm gonna go take a bath. And so she marches off and he goes after her and he's like, I'm sorry. Like, I'm sorry for saying all of the stuff about how you do anything for coin. I know that that's not what's happening here. But like, and he tries to explain it away essentially. And she's like, okay, I can understand where you're coming from a little bit, but I'm still pissed at you because it doesn't change the fact that you are a fucking asshole.
Yeah. So this is where Hrothgar loses me, because Hrothgar is not great at communication in general, but he's literally never heard the phrase productive communication.
He like, says to, he also like he's really good at saying the worst possible things. So he says to her, please pop it. Do not leave me for other work. Mayhap I can pay you more gold double what we spoke
Oh,
of? This shall
my
please you,
God.
You shall stay. And she looks him dead in his beautiful, stupid face. And
Oh
she's
my
like,
God.
your response to being upset about me being a money-grubbing whore is to offer me more gold? Really? Rathgar?
When I've already told you, like, that doesn't help. Because one of the main reasons that he's upset when he comes back is not only like the consorting with the enemy thing, it's also that it sounds to him as though she's going to leave his employment in order to take this orc
work for
school
Orc
employment.
Mountain.
And she's like, what are you talking about? No, I'm trying to help you in Orc Mountain. Like, come on, dude. And so she says one of the main things that that makes Jewel a good organizer and a good boss and all of that. And one of the reasons that the job sounded so good is because she actually felt like her skills, her knowledge, everything was valued. Like they didn't talk about a salary at all because it was focused on like what the job is and why she's perfect for it, right?
Yeah.
So she goes through this whole thing about how he doesn't make her feel valued. And then his response is, can I triple it? Is it more? Extra gold pieces? Question mark.
Well, and this is one of those moments where you really start to understand this hero and how he literally cannot fathom a world where gold in a hoard is not
most important.
The most important thing.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you're making the same breakfast that you have every day or baking a cake for an extra special day, eggs are a staple in our diets. Eggland's best eggs are nutritionally superior to ordinary eggs, containing more vitamins and 25% less saturated fat. Not only are they better for you, but Eggland's best eggs taste better too. There's a reason that they're America's #1 eggs. Visit egglandsbest.com for additional information and delicious recipes.
Did you know that parents rank financial literacy as the #1 most difficult life skill to teach? Meet Greenlight, the debit card and money app for families. With Greenlight, you can set up chores, automate allowance, and keep an eye on your kids' spending with real-time notifications. Kids learn to earn, save, and spend wisely, and parents can rest easy knowing their kids are learning about money with guardrails in place. Sign up for Greenlight today at greenlight.com/podcast.
So they end up bathing in the sky pool. Killick and Ulfar are there watching them like fucking weirdos. She's
They're
like
just standing there watching.
like fuck whatever.
The whole time.
It's very obvious this entire book that Killick is on alert. He's watching. He's got his little sky face on, like keeping an eye on on Rathgar with his little sniffer.
Absolutely. And Rathgar doesn't like Sky in general. And the Sky have notoriously been like, of the 5 clans, like during the dark ages of Orc Mountain, the Sky were like extra more abusive in a lot of different ways.
Yes.
And Ulfar is the son of one of like the big serious Sky leadership that has been taken out by the new generation of Sky leadership because of their crimes. But still, like, the rest of the Sky clan doesn't trust Ulfar. Ulfar's in a situation where he's trying to, like, get back in the good graces of everyone.
To be fair, listener, if you don't have the history and the context, Ulfar has done some really bad shit on page in this series. So, like, it's one of those fucked up things where, like, you learn so much more in his book just based on what Melody explained.
Absolutely.
Like, everyone has basically forgiven him except Rathgar. But like all of the orcs have forgiven him because as far as they're concerned, hasn't he basically paid penance?
No. He's still not allowed to have a mate. He's not allowed to adopt a son.
Sunni,
He's not allowed to have a son. And
was it by the end of his book then that
Yes.
things get better? Okay.
Yeah. Right now, Ulfar is under the impression that he cannot see the healer.
Yes.
And we find out because he gets beat to fuck in the
Doesn't
book
his
where he
dick get ripped off, basically?
Yeah, it does almost get like it's bad, like cut off by one of the wives. Anyway.
So beyond all of this, they have their little bath time, and then they get back to their room, and things start changing a little bit for the better. We have the sweetest scene where he is brushing and taking care of her hair for her.
He braids it for
and braids
her.
it, and he puts beautiful beads in it.
And he says that he used to do it for Kest.
Mm-hmm. And so then he tells her, I want to be a better helpmate to you. I want to make you feel valued. How can I do that? And she's starting to understand him a little bit more and realizing, oh, he doesn't want me to leave, is what this all boils down to. And he thinks that if I take this job, I'll be leaving him.
This is classic insecurity lashing out.
This is a Sebastian in action. Okay,
Yeah.
I see what's happening. And then they end up snuggling in bed because they cuddle every night in bed. Since that first night, they spoon and snuggle, and it's adorable. And at one point, did we already mention that like there was a whole conversation where she teases him on the road? She's like, you call everybody Poppet and shit like that because you just don't want to have to remember their names. And then he calls her Poppet, and he's like, oh, wait. Would you rather I call you Jifa? I don't want you to feel... And she's like, no, Poppet's fine as long as it's only... Like, pet names are fine. I just want them to be only for me.
It's only me. Only me, period, the end.
And then he softens behind her and snuggles her up, and he says, ugh, then Poppet.
Yeah. And when he can't sleep, he's been asking her to tell him tales. Because that's part of like the book that one of the reasons she made the sacrifice of leaving the book is because she knows all of the tales in there by heart. And so she ends up telling him like a bunch of folk tales. And one of the biggest reasons he loves this about her is because that is Kest's biggest talent. He's called a Galder spinner.
Mm-hmm.
And that means that he has like an almost magical ability to tell tales and capture the attention of the audience.
Also importantly, he finds out this night that after one of his healing things is he was able to make her essentially infertile temporarily. Yeah. And he's like super duper nervous about the next morning with Kest. And she's like, you really just need to be honest with him because he's going to know if you're lying to him. Like everybody here is going to be able to smell it apparently because it's going to be one of the times that their sniffers actually work. And
they're going to be paying attention with their sniffers.
And you can't hide anything from one of those sniffers when it's doing its sniffy thing.
And I'm pretty sure Not Far the Sky Enforcer is going to be there, and he can ask you point blank, and you have to tell him the truth. That's his magical ability.
His magical power is literally you cannot lie to his face.
Yeah.
So she's like, I'll be there for you. I'll support you.
Yes.
And he's like, will you? Are you sure? And she's like, yeah, hun. Like, it's okay, baby. Like, I got you.
I'm a helpmate. Yeah. So they go to this meeting and Kest is like, all right, no preamble, go. And Hrathgar very hesitantly tells the story of how he was made to leave Orc Mountain. He did not want to, but the morning after their mother died, he was approached by like all of the big bad sky dudes that
including
kill everybody.
Ulfar's dad.
Yeah, including Ulfar's dad. And they told him that he had to leave. He had to never tell anyone who he is. He could never speak Kest's name again. He could never do anything like that.
Couldn't say
and
his
if
own
that happened,
name.
That's what I mean.
Oh.
Yeah, he could never tell anyone who he is. And he has to like live in anonymity out in the world, or they will kill Kest, like in front of him and painfully.
And this is why he had no idea that Kest was being abused so brutally in his absence, is because he literally wasn't allowed to ask after Kest.
This is also why he had no idea that every single one of the Sky that approached him has now been murderlated by the next generation because they're cleaning up Orc Mountain.
Which, like, what a hell of a context, knowing that he thought he was... No wonder he was nervous to come back to Orc Mountain, thinking that all of those people were there.
Yeah. And up until this point, Jiva's been hearing what he says about certain important figures and then observing those figures, finding things out about them. Like, for example, he hates Grimmar. And he thinks that Grimmar is just like his dad because when Wrath was there, he was kind of just like his dad, except for all of like the needless violence, you know, because he was trying to impress his dad. But then Jiva's like, but he used the whole horde to better the entire mountain. Like, I really don't think that these people are your enemies. And Hrothgar still has a hard time with it. So when that happens, Grimmar stands up and he says that we're cleaning the slate. We're going to make sure that everybody knows the wrong that was done to Hrothgar of Ashkai. And he says, like, also, here's a bag of gold, essentially in reparations. And Hrothgar says, I don't want that. Give it to Kest. And Kest says, I don't want that. Spend it on the mountain. And then this is when Hrothgar gets the promise from Grimmar that if the hoard is found, it will go to he and Kest and like their line.
Very importantly, Hrothgar is feeling very emotional and goes a little catatonic again.
Yes.
And nope, this hasn't.
Yeah.
Nope, never mind. We haven't skipped this yet. He does go catatonic though, and she like brings him back with sex, basically.
Yeah, she pushes him into a side room after they leave. She can't even get him all the way to their room. She just pushes him into a random room and starts touching up on him and like has to like get under his clothes to like really get his attention. And then finally he comes back to himself when he's like, pop it. I'm going to plunder that womb now.
And then, boy, does
and
he.
she's like, it's on, TM. Let's do this thing. And so this is when they have vaginal penetrative sex for the first time.
It's hot. Unsurprisingly, it's hot. All of these orcs know how to fuck. Like, that's really all you need to know.
Yikes.
So the next big thing is he asks her, do you want to come with me sparring? Because she assumes that he's going to, like, send her off to the room and, like, fuck off and disappear. Because that's what he's been doing, to be clear. He just disappears the second half of the day, basically, every day. And this never ends. And so she ends up, it's just an important subplot that this scene even matters, is she's there and she can see Sigar like longingly looking after Abjorn with his little fighty fight. She learns a little bit more about Hrothgar's history. This is when she learns that like basically Hrothgar was kind of a father figure to both Kest and Abjorn, and he took all of these people under his wing and they're his little babies. And then she's like, well, something's going on with Sigar and Abjorn, and I am an intrigue. Something just to keep in my brain.
And then Sigar offers to show her how to fight. And so they do that. And she says, like, no, Hrothgar always says I'm like ungainly and terrible at stuff and all the things. And Hrothgar like comes over to her and whispers in her ear, like, Puppet, I never said that. I said that you were skittish and like sometimes a little bit clumsy, but I never said any of those things. You are not all of those things. And then Jewel comes in and she says, we're throwing an Ashkai party and we want you to be
Ashkai
the
party
people of
times.
honor.
Listener, also, we were both wrong. This is when Grimmar publicly shares that all of the horde will be Kest and Hrothgar's.
Sure. It's like in this timeline.
In this party times. It doesn't matter. So the important part of this scene is that they have public sex. Okay. They're at this party time and he has her sit on his lap and she's fucking him or riding him.
Because public sex is a really important thing in orc culture in general. And like once the orclings leave, it's like Splash Mountain after dark, you know? And so first of all, he has to cajole her hard about having sex with him at all. And he does it in like a pretty thoughtful way, I guess, because he tells her that he's basically chosen a position in which she wouldn't have to bear her entire body on purpose because he knows that something like that might embarrass her. So he manages to convince her after a while to have sex with him. And then up until this point, like when they were talking about prices for different sexual favors, one of the biggest things is that she negotiated with him that 2 gold coins is the base rate for a blowjob. And if like she puts in a really good performance, like really good effort, she was getting like a 5 gold coin every once in a while, you know? And so they've created this dynamic in which the more she is a helpmate, the better, like, you know, he gives her better feedback, and that's important to her. So he says, like, I want to hear what is going through your head. Like, tell me how much you want my big Ashkai prick, and like, you're going to kiss out my fat load and all the business.
Yeah, and like beg me for my seed and all of these things. And so she gets into it and she makes comments like, basically, give me your son.
So he keeps on telling her more. And she says, more, Hrothgar, more, I need you. Need anything you'll give me. Your seed, your hands, your gifts, your tending, she dragged in air, her body writhing all over as he finally sank all the way, skin pressing to hot skin, your trust, your truth, your sons. And that is when he ends up coming. And then as they're like both coming down, he says to her, very nice woman. He said smoothly as that hand rose to pat at her cheek, the touch distant and firm. I always knew you secretly longed to beg and plead for my seed and my sons. You women are all the same, all too easy by far. And so this is when I had I'm dying inside, I'm crumbling into a husk and going through the floorboards. And then, and she's having this reaction too, right? Like, it's hitting her incredibly hard, but she's supposed to be a happy helpmate. And so she says, indeed, love. She's like desperately bringing a smile to her face. We well know what a great honor it is to earn an Ashkai's true favor and affection and bear him hale, hearty sons. And so she even makes him look good in that moment. And then she's like, pardon me, I need to go be anywhere but here. Listener, we are cruel mistresses, and we're leaving you on this cliffhanger. Tomorrow, we'll be back to see if Hrothgar says and does enough to get her to forgive him. It seems like a really big ask to me, but if anyone can do it, it's Finley Fenn. Heaving Bosoms is produced by us, Melody Carlisle and Sabrina Bradley. Editing is done by me, Melody Carlisle. Our theme music is by the incredible singer-songwriter Brittany Fonts, and our art is by the ultra-talented author Kate Pryor. If you like our show, remember to follow us on your favorite podcast app, rate us 5 stars, and leave a review. That one small action is a huge way to help the show. If you want to get in touch with us for advertising inquiries or anything else, you can email us at heavingbosomespodcast@gmail.com. If you want more of us, visit patreon.com/heavingbosomspodcast. You can also find us on Instagram at Heaving Bosoms, on TikTok at Heaving_Bosoms, and in our Facebook group, the Heaving Bosoms Geriatric Friendship Cult. See you tomorrow.